Welcome to the SCCG Arb Labs podcast from the HQ of SCCG on the Las Vegas Strip. My name is Steve Crystal of SCCG, and I've got here...
I'm the CEO of Arb Labs. My name's Tom Hearn.
Today we're going to talk about electronic table games, business intelligence, and really table game systems of the future. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. 35 years in the gambling industry, and 20 of them were consumed with taking innovative table game products to the market. Recently at SCCG we teamed up with Arb Labs for their ChipVue product, and we've had amazing success. We're going to unveil some new additions, some new features at the Indian Gaming Association trade show, March 31st through April 3rd in San Diego. And I thought I'd start, Tom, talking a little bit about your background and how you came to ChipVue and your expertise in table games.
I've been in the sports betting, the sports data, the sports betting, the esports betting space for quite a while now, probably over the last 15 years. And through that, I've just made a whole series of contacts. And when Arbs decided that they wanted to bring in a new professional CEO with good operations experience, good betting experience to take over the company, they contacted me through a friend. And I ended up doing a lot of due diligence on them to convince myself that this was a project that I could have a lot of influence on, and started on April 1st of 2025.
Tom, before we get into some specific areas that drill down into ChipVue and the value that it brings to the casino industry, maybe talk a little bit about the evolution of table games and table game technology from early roots, issues in terms of table game protection, in terms of business intelligence, and how we've evolved to where we are now. Just a little bit of that story.
So a lot of it has really been focused, I think, more on the surveillance side, looking from atop, trying to figure out if there's anybody who's card counting or cheating at the tables, etc. Some basic analytics with respect to the player. How much do they bet? How long were they here? Were they winners, losers, etc. So that if you want to compensate them or reward them for the time they spent at the table, you have some data available. But that data so far has been relatively limited, and it certainly is not yet taking full advantage of AI capabilities to take video and images and recognize patterns, see things on the table, and automatically do analysis and alerts on them.
I know when I first came into the gaming industry in 1992, we were opening up riverboats in Kansas City. We came to Las Vegas and purchased some casinos on Fremont. I remember the catwalks were still there where the old school surveillance people used to peer down through one-way mirrors looking at the table game. But we would have a pit. We would have a supervisor. We would have a supervisor who would supervise the supervisor. We would have, of course, the crew working the table. And then I know over time, there was innovation that even I was part of to kind of replace the whole notion of a dealer and put a fully electronic table. Where does ChipVue fit on that extreme from traditional table game to fully automated table game? Where does ChipVue fit?
Well, we're taking what is a traditional table game and giving you all of the information that you would get from an electronics table game. And I think that's important because from an experiential perspective, it's not that exciting playing an electronic tables game as it is sitting with your friends at a casino table playing some blackjack or some baccarat, winning, that big hand against the dealer. But the problem is with this traditional method is the information has been relatively limited. Steven sits down, he bets $50 a hand, and that's kind of all they know. They don't know necessarily the total number of hands you played. They don't know the variability in how much you bet. They don't know the total amount you bet, how often you side bet, if you buy insurance, if you split or double down. None of that information is available, and so we've created a system that can give you all that data, but still with the traditional game flow and play of a regular casino table, blackjack, baccarat, and all the poker style type games.
I remember, Tom, when we were in the marketplace in the 2000s selling the notion of a fully automated electronic table game, I remember that we would meet with you know, the senior table game director, and obviously there was some resistance because the thought was it would put people out of jobs.
Yes.
And they were very protective, but it was compelling at that time to say, look, you know, a table, it might cost you $125,000 for 6 seats, but the overhead allocation to run a table fully staffed is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I know that over time, it took maybe 15 years from that first discussion for it to be acceptable to table game managers that a certain mix of their tables should be fully automated. This was
Yes.
the discussion, and the reason at that time was very simple, that they realized that with the cost structure of casinos and the need to make your numbers and your margins, that if they wanted to offer low denomination play, the only way to do that effectively and efficiently was with electronic
Yes,
tables.
correct.
So now, when you walk in to see the same table game manager or VP of gaming or the senior person overseeing all gaming operations, what is the selling point for ChipVue?
So there's two kind of main selling points, and then there's some other tertiary benefits as well. One is being far more efficient in your comp dollars. So if I know exactly what you play, I know the value that you bring to the table because you side bet more often and I make more money from you, etc. I can be laser focused on my compensation. I can probably spend a little less in comp. I can get a better return on investment on that comp. And that's a lot of money. As you know, comp is a big portion of the revenue made off of the table games. There's also now the surveillance capability of being able to see in real time and alert a pit boss or a supervisor in real time if something is going on the table that's unusual. Somebody is stacking chips in a way to maybe hide low denomination chips inside of a high denomination chip, barbell it. Somebody who may be trying to chip or cap, you know, change their chip positions, maybe sneak in a side bet late, you know, somebody betting outside the table limits. All of those type of things now, that can all be automated. And supervisors and surveillance people today, they're generally trying to monitor a large number of tables or big pits. And so you're not gonna see everything. Mm-hmm. So the system is there to say, listen, maybe you wanna take a look at this player in particular. We've noticed some unusual behavior. Is bet sequencing. We're noticing that it's outside of a standard deviation and therefore you may have a potential card counter, etc. You know, those are the type of things where we can assist in that process and make it far more efficient and get you a lot more information about what's going on at each individual betting position.
So you're not replacing jobs. What you're doing, like with electronic table games, what you're doing instead is using technology along with the live table game experience to create, let's say, a more efficient and better way to evaluate the player and give important data to the folks that are operating the tables.
And in fact, the pit boss, instead of, you know, being the administrator and just logging in data, etc., can probably have better conversations with the player and say, you know, you get rewarded much nicer on those side bets if you want to play those instead. You know, you can get 3 reward points versus a 1 reward point on the main bet. Become more of a marketing person for the organization. Let people know that maybe aren't carded yet what the real value of being carded is, etc. So all in all, it should help the casino make more money and be more efficient in how they take care of their players.
Well, I've been part, in my own experience, of rolling out 3 major table game systems or products, and I remember the experience taking years and years to break through and kind of get that adoption. One thing that has surprised me since our collaboration began is that it almost is a one-to-one experience when a pitch is made about the merits of the ChipVue system. People want to go further, and that adoption is moving down the sales funnel pretty effectively. So it seems like it's a product that fits a need and fills a niche that isn't being met. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when they see a live demonstration, and the live, for me, I've found that the live demonstration is 100 times more effective than a Zoom call and other things that you can do. But when they see a live demonstration, when they can actually see a picture of their own bet, an image of their bet, and realize how accurately they're being tabulated and counted and looked at, then they feel that, okay, now this is a system that actually does what's been promised over the years about accurately rewarding or accurately tracking the individual players. I'm finding surveillance is a big feature for the casinos. They're looking for more and more ways to try and establish if the play is proper on the table. And it gives them a lot of automated tertiary data, like the number of hands played, total dollars bet on a table, occupancy rates at the table, dealer speeds, all of those things that can be used for floor management, table management, dealer management, dealer speed, etc. That are just small things here and there, but add up to significant dollars fairly quickly.
Before we go in, I have a number of areas I want to drill down and really make this instructive for folks who may not know the mechanics behind the table game side of the gaming business. But before I do that, if you could just kind of walk through the setup here and what it's all about.
So this is an optical bet recognition system. There's one camera for each betting position. With these cameras, we can look at every single bet spot for that individual player, and depending on where we are in the hand sequence, take our video stream, cache the images, run our AI software on that cached image, and give you the most accurate representation of what's going on there. We have an AI computer at the table so that we don't have any latency issues, especially with respect to the video, and therefore we can track and do all the analysis at the table side, which works very quickly.
So I'm sitting here, what if I do that? What if I have a different mixture? What if I place the mixture here? Talk a little bit about that.
So those are often, I mean, I play a lot of blackjack, mainly just because I'm in the industry space and I want to know what, it's funny when people say, oh, do you like to play blackjack and make money? I'm like, no, I actually like to observe dealer behavior and table behaviors and understand the flow of how a table works. Most really good dealers make sure you're being clean about how they run the table. But if there's a whole bunch of images that we would create that would show that they weren't, it would be a very good opportunity from a training perspective. Mm-hmm. But let's say you've got a good dealer. They say, that, okay, hand is started, get your bets in place. This is the main bet position here. Get your bet in place and let's run a hand.
Let's say I do that.
Most dealers will do that.
There you go.
And say, okay, make that a nice stack. I would probably still be able to recognize that image, even tilted to the side. Mm-hmm. We have a relatively wide berth that we can take a look at. It's not unlimited, obviously. I don't want to be trying to scan the entire table. But in my experience, most dealers would do that. We'd play a quick hand of cards here. You've got 7, I've got 7 up. You want another card, you're at 12. Oh, you're at 21. Dealer is at 18. And I have to stay on a soft 18, so you win. And so we pay you out. My software would have detected that you had 2 $500 chips, a $5 chip, and a $100 chip. Mm-hmm. So, we are also enhancing our software to then notice what the dealer pays out on that, mm-hmm. to make sure that it matches. We would record you in the system here and show all the image of that bet. We would record the bet amount. We would record your theoretical win value or the value to the casino of it. In this case as well, because of the way you stack the chips, we would have alerted somebody that you tried to hide a $5 chip inside higher denomination chips.
Yeah.
A good dealer will catch that often, but not always. And therefore the casino would like to know that. In case that there's, the dealer mispays on something like that, they want to catch those type of things.
So there's nothing about the ChipVue system that should slow down play, slow down hands per minute. If anything, it should create a more efficient flow to the progress of the table game session.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we specifically have built the product. These cameras are literally only 3/4 of an inch tall. in our experience in talking to dealers who've been using this system now for over 3 years at a casino in Quebec, near Quebec City, they tell us that they don't even notice that they're there. The players actually don't mind it being there. There's always the conversation of like, oh, you're watching me. It's like, no, I'm watching your chips. I actually can't see your face from these, and I don't really want to at this point.
Right.
And so, no, our dealers tell us that because of the way we've built this around the chip tray, it doesn't affect the flow of the table. We generally, when we come in, we work with your existing table configuration. So I'm not asking a dealer to move where the main bet position is, make them change the way they've run the table before, because that would just be annoying. They don't want that. And therefore, we find that the flow goes quite well, and then you've got all this huge amount of data that you can then use for training purposes later, which actually means that over time you're actually probably going to speed up the tables a little bit and get some more hands in. And for a casino, more hands is more money. So
Excellent. Now we're going to go through some issues, some headline issues and some discussion. I'll
Yes.
just kind of go through this pretty efficiently. The first is the table game data gap. And here's the question. Slots generate massive operational data, but table games have always been harder to track. Why has this gap existed?
basically because AI is the key to this. Processing capability is the key to this. So, a lot of what's going on in artificial intelligence today is not necessarily brand new from a technology perspective, but we have processing speeds now that can do the calculations in a time frame that actually works for a table like this. And so you've probably always been able to take a picture of the table, but it may take minutes to process what that bet was, which is not very relevant. And so this allows in literally seconds to be able to tell you every single bet that goes on the table, and therefore we can give you all of that data.
I remember, Tom, when we had the casinos downtown, every day at 5 o'clock we'd meet in the director of surveillance's office, and he would play what he called the greatest hits from the day, where over the course of the day, as they were analyzing, and they couldn't analyze everything. They didn't have overlays which alerted them. They had to do it the old-fashioned way. But by the end of the day, they would be able to say, well, these are the 4 or 5 things that got us today. Well, those people were already out of the casino or had left. There was nothing actionable we could do except learn and maybe improve our systems going forward. Obviously, what you're talking about with real-time AI-based business intelligence is the ability real-time to do something.
So in that type of situation, if I caught you barbelling or your bet sequencing was off, I'd automatically send an alert up to the supervisors and surveillance team. They would see it within seconds. They would start to watch your play immediately. And therefore, no, you haven't been able to hijack it out of the casino with $20,000 in your pocket. We're on you from that next hand.
Excellent. Number 2, why better table data matters. If operators had accurate visibility into every wager at the table, what operational advantage would that unlock?
So as you know, casinos spend a huge amount of dollars in comp. So if they make $1,000 on a table, they're probably spending upwards of $200 back in rewards comp. And if today, that's a massively inefficient process. And it's in a process that's really probably not rewarding very accurately. We've done side-by-side trials of our system and a traditional system where the pit boss types in, Stephen plays $50 a hand. We were able to determine that in the best case situation, the pit boss was accurate 18% of the time.
Wow.
And was inaccurate 82% of the time.
Crazy.
If you then, we've run ROI models and built analysis, if you take the overcomp and undercomp dollars and move them into the right buckets, the return on investment is staggering.
Well, and I'm assuming that's the very argument you use when you go in and meet with that VP of gaming operations.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
You touched upon this when you were explaining the overview of the setup here, but let's talk now, number 3, what ChipVue actually does. So the question is, for operators hearing about ChipVue for the first time, what exactly does the technology do?
So the technology runs from these cameras a live video stream. And during the hand, when we establish what's supposed to happen at a particular time, so main bets are ready. It caches all the images of the main bets. It picks the image it prefers, the nicest image. It runs the AI software on it, and you end up with an image that has a picture of that bet, all the different chips, and and how that bet has been denominated. How many $100 chips, how many $25 chips, it totals it all up. It gives you a theoretical value for that bet as well. In the game of Baccarat, where we're integrated in with a smart shoe, we actually do full win-loss analysis because the cards come out by rule. There's not player decisions about holding on 13, etc., etc. And so what you get is, for every single hand on the table, all day long, every single bet, you've recorded that data, and you have all that data for analysis.
Awesome. In terms of number 4, optical bet recognition, which is the core technology, how does optical bet recognition work during a live game without interrupting the player experience?
So it's all about being low profile. It's all about allowing the table to be set up as it was originally set up. The only things that we do is we come in and we put these cameras around the chip tray so that we can stay out of the dealer's way, but we really are focused very heavily on table flow, dealer flow, and not interrupting what was a normal table game experience for both the player and the dealer previously.
Awesome. Moving on, let's talk about the impact on casino operations. How does real-time table data change the way pit managers run the floor?
So we have, as a companion product to our ChipVue system, which is our table management platform. And there, a supervisor can look at all the analytics for that pit. He can in real time see the occupancy rates. He can see the entire pit. He can see the occupancy rates at all the table. He can see the dollar amounts being bet. He can see the flow as to what's going on in those tables. He can see the dealer efficiencies. So then you can start to say, okay, and you've accumulated this data over days, weeks, months. You can say, okay, on Tuesday, this is exactly how we want to set up the pit now based on the occupancy rates. I don't want 8 tables open with one person sitting at each. We're going to open 3 tables, and those 8 people can sit there. I can save some money from that perspective. I can look at my table limits and go, you know, we had our $15 tables were full, our $25 tables were empty. Maybe we need to convert one of those down to a 15 so that we're more efficient and get more dollar play, more dollar volume. All of those things can be done. You might say, listen, this dealer's great at blackjack. They're terrible at carnival games. So we're not going to put them on poker anymore. We're going to put them on blackjack.
Would you, in that case, be using AI to prompt a manager to say, this is the data, you should consider A, or you should consider B?
Yes, we're building in we'll build in feature sets over time here. We have some today, we'll build in feature sets over time. It's all automated reporting. You can go in and dig through the data all you want, but we've built up a whole series of package reports as well that would say, okay, let's look at dealer efficiency in this blackjack game versus this poker game, etc. Let's look at occupancy rates, etc. And we're working with a couple of other companies as well who are AI specialists in huge database structures to be able to say, okay, how do we glean those nuggets out of there to help a manager find things that they may not see on their own out of the data.
We're working on as well on the slot side and the use of AI in terms of huge data sets around slot machine play. One of the products, for example, we're working with actually involves giving the player the data so that they can determine where they want to play, how long they want to play. And the theory is that by giving them more data and empowering the player, they feel more comfortable playing and spending the time. It doesn't necessarily improve their chances, but it improves the utilization of the casino. And in the end, it's better for the casino to provide that. Is there any analogy to that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, because we track every single hand, because we move the data from the computer at the table back to our central servers after every single hand, you could get real-time updates on gameplay. Now that needs to be coordinated with the casino's player management system and CMS, et cetera, and how they best want to communicate that. But all of that data is there. So I could say, Steven, you just bet this amount, you know, here's your betting patterns. Here, if you're playing blackjack, here's what you're up or down.
Yeah.
All of those type of things. And you're right, that would be very interesting information for, and they could get that on their phone like they would get any other of the
Well,
rewards information.
As we
You could
know,
s- you could-
yeah, people are using multiple screens.
You could see real time the reward you're earning.
Yeah.
You know, so I know it's like, oh, okay, I played blackjack for an hour and a half and I made enough money for dinner or something, like rewards for dinner or a show or something, and or I'm $10 away from getting that free show ticket. Well, I think I'll play for another 20 minutes. So
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Let's talk a little bit more about player rating and loyalty. How does accurate wager tracking improve player rating and loyalty programs? How does it work?
So it makes I think table players historically have feel like they're being either undercomped or not tracked properly. And in my conversations with guys who play and women who play a lot of casino table games, they say, I wish they would just pay attention to exactly what I was doing. And if they tracked the exact dollars I was betting and how I played, I'd feel like I'm being more fairly compensated. Because I think a lot of the time, you know, if I sit down and I start at a $25 table, you know, I probably start with a couple $25 bets. If that's what the pit boss saw, well, that's probably the lowest bet I've made that night. You know, if it's me, I'm probably going 25. If I feel like I'm down a few hands and I'm due for a run, I'll start to move my dollars up. I just want to be noticed for I just want you to tell me, okay, Tom, we know exactly that you bet, you know, $8,000 in this session versus $25 a hand and $50 50 hands an hour as an average and blah, blah, blah. So,
Well, we know on the slot side, there's no error.
Correct.
You put your card in, it's tracked, and believe me, those slot players are wanting to make sure they get every single point of loyalty credit that they can get, and the fact that you don't necessarily have that on the table game side is really a missed opportunity.
absolutely.
So when we talk about integration on the casino floor, the question would be for operators concerned about adding technology to the pit, tell us how easy this is to deploy. Give us a typical installation, deployment timeline.
So we can do about 4 tables a day. You know, we come in on Monday mornings when the pit is quiet. You can shut down the pit. We work with the carpenter from the casino to say, okay, where exactly do you want us to put our computer? Let us get everything all wired up. Every table has an Ethernet connection already. So we just Ethernet connect back to our servers, and then we do the server-to-server connectivity. You know, most casinos would have us come in and do a couple of pits to start, and we would get all that up and running in a week for you.
Wow. So almost quicker than even setting up new slot machines on the floor and getting them programmed.
Probably, yes.
And in terms of security and transparency, how can real-time table data improve security and dispute resolution?
So on the security side, we talked about a couple of the items, but if we have a few items in our system today. We're finishing a surveillance module that will track about 8 or 9 different things on the table: chipping, capping, dealer hole carding. Some of these are accidental, so they're not necessarily, the default isn't that somebody's cheating, but it means that there's activity that we don't want on the table. Sometimes it is cheating. And so all of those are automatically alerted straight up to the surveillance team. On a dispute, if the dealer thought that you put down 2 $50 chips and you said you had 3 $50 chips, well, I've got a picture of that. And it sits here on the side monitor at the table, and I can basically pull up a picture, and the player and the dealer and the pit boss can all look at that bet and go, no, that was the
Wow.
actual amount of the bet.
That's powerful.
So the dispute resolution is now measured in small numbers of seconds versus, sorry, we've got to shut down the table, I've got to call surveillance upstairs, they've got to spend 5 minutes reviewing the tape, all of that type of stuff.
If you were a casino and you're competing in a competitive market, would you use the fact that you're offering ChipVue and all of its attributes for the player as a selling point to come to your casino versus another?
Our experience is that the players like the system.
Yeah.
And so they would feel happy that things were being tracked properly and everything was being taken care of. The cheaters, no, they probably don't like it. If I'm here card counting or I'm here to chip and cap because I got a sloppy dealer, I'm probably gonna go to a different place and a different table, but I don't think the casino cares.
If I'm an operator, I would want them because
Yes.
probably they're looking for an advantage.
Correct.
So let's talk about two topics for the future. Obviously, this, as we're sitting here, you walk through the demo of the table. Is this version 1.0 or is it already evolved?
No, because we've been in production for 3 years, we fine-tuned all of these algorithms on the table. We play around with configurations with respect to how we like the cameras. We can do 5-seat tables, we can do 6-seat tables, we can do 7-seat tables, we can do 9-seat tables. So we've refined our software. We generally use the same camera configuration, but we've refined the software. Our accuracy rates have gone up tremendously over the last couple of years because I can set this up in a lab with perfect lighting and nothing going on in the background and say, hey, it's 99% accurate all the time. But when I take it out to a casino, the lighting is usually poorer. There's a lot of background activity. There might be flashing lights, etc. You know, in the early days, we were probably 75% accurate. We've gotten ourselves up though with our fine tuning up to the 95% plus and 99% plus, and therefore, you know, this is I would say this is a battle-tested system. It's been in casino operations for over 3 years, and I have a very high level of confidence that when we go and install at a new casino, it'll work at the high level accuracy rates that we want.
You mentioned the statistic before of 18% accuracy when it's a human supervisor doing everything manually. I would say 95, 97, it's pretty good by comparison.
I would agree.
For sure. And as you look into the future, what's on tap for additional features, additional capabilities over the next 2, 3, 4 years?
So I keep getting asked about 3 or 4 different things in particular. I get asked about facial recognition a lot. So from a couple of different perspectives. One is you just come and sit down at the table, can I recognize who you are and automatically log you in? That's probably not that far away. You know, can I recognize that you sat down here at the table and yeah, the last couple times you played, we weren't necessarily thrilled with your player behavior, and therefore surveillance now needs to keep a really close eye on you. Those aren't very far away either. The other feature that we're looking to build in that we don't have in yet, that we will do soon, it requires one additional camera kind of in the monitor area, is being able to do a full win-loss analysis by hand in real time. And therefore you would be able to, if I knew the exact win-loss, payouts, etc. I knew how many chips were in the tray to start with. I knew what you bought in and what we paid out. I could keep a running reconciliation of this table second by second and alert anybody if this reconciliation got off, which would mean that chips have disappeared from the tray. You know, potentially, you know, you're a buddy of mine, so you bought in for $1,000 and I gave you $1,100 of chips or $1,200 of chips, or you know, you didn't win that hand, but I paid you out. That happens by accident a lot too, apparently. So,
Yeah.
Or paying out the wrong amount. It all depends on the training level of the dealer. But the casino would be able to then know pretty much immediately, okay, table's out of tilt. Let's go look at some things. Let's make sure, you know, we can do our reconciliations properly at the end of every shift. It would just give them a comfort level that they know exactly to the cent what's going on that table.
And when we talk about also in terms of the future of the analytics side, table game analytics, as casinos become more and more data driven, where do you see the table game analytics heading over the next few years?
Well, I see it getting into more of the deep AI, as you say, searching through all of that data, finding those nuggets that probably some good managers will be able to figure out on their own, and others need that kind of driven to them to say, okay, here are my top dealers. Here's maybe, you know, a dealer pattern or a dealer process that seems to work better for this casino than other dealer processes, and let's use that as a training method for some of the other dealers. you know, all about kind of maintenance and repair and on all of those type of things with respect to the table. All these automated alerts that you could start to do to say, okay, you really would have a perfect overview on the whole pit and floor and feel very comfortable that everything that was going on in your tables was being managed.
And I would argue, and we touched on this earlier, that the ability to share every bit of that data as it relates to what the player is creating, to share that with the player, to empower the player to become a smarter player is actually good for the casino.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think that would be a very powerful tool. I think if I was a table player and I knew exactly how I was being rewarded and managed and could look at my play and analyze my own play, etc., I'd probably be a more active player.
Table games have been around since the days of the military, the days of World War II, and people would shoot dice on the sidewalks and play cards in the bays. Where do you see table games in general? Are they evergreen, here to stay? The live action, the experience of people sitting around and playing, is that here to stay?
I do believe that's here to stay. I believe that the social element, you know, as much as we can electronically recreate everything in our lives and put it on our phone, sitting and playing blackjack at home on the couch is not the same as going to the casino with your friends and going out to dinner and playing some table games. And, you know, it's a form of entertainment. And I think it's a form of entertainment that'll stick around for quite a long time.
Tom, I've had the pleasure of working with you. You've been in this industry innovating in different aspects. I don't think people realize, if they're customers, they don't realize what goes into bringing innovation. Not only the regulatory hurdles, the technological hurdles, the process of selling to so many different sectors within the industry, but it takes a very kind of special personality who can persevere. You've done it time and again with different products, so it's a real pleasure to be working with you. I think, and we literally have over 100 such products at any given time, but I would say that ChipVue sits near the top, at the top. When we go and talk to people, this is something that they gravitate towards. So I think it's clear to us you have a winner here. I'm looking forward to seeing you and sharing booth space at IGA, having a party afterwards and sharing some time with our tribal gaming friends and colleagues and partners. So any final words?
No, I agree with you 100%. It's an exciting partnership. We chose you guys for a reason. You've got great reach. You've got great people. We've really enjoyed the journey so far, and I know it's just going to be even more fantastic as we go forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.